It's really about exploration. It's about taking us away from worrying about the problems that we have on the Earth.
Curiosity has landed. Will we discover life on Mars? Curiosity ChemCam science team member Dr. Horton Newsom shares an insider's view of the Mars rover's amazing technology and search for the essential elements of life buried in Martian soil.
Billions of years ago, there were environments where life could have existed. And we're looking for evidence of what those environments were like, and also whether there was, in fact, any life present at that time. There's a possibility that life is still present on Mars, but it would almost certainly be deep underground.
Navajo, they say, the sacred begins at the tip of my tongue.
Inspired by her heritage and imbued with female spirit, renowned Navajo poet Lucy Tapahanso shares with us her inspirations and poetry.
Whatever a person creates and brings into this world is sacred, and it adds to the beauty of the world. It adds to the way that all of us live, and we all benefit when people create something new.
Welcome to Connect, where each month we connect with the great people and inspired thinking found at the University of New Mexico. Connect is next. Dr. Horton Newsom joins us now, and the Mars Science Laboratory has landed on Mars. What do you think? Will we find life?
Well, it's very exciting, and ever since we've landed, we've been working almost around the clock on Mars time, which is really interesting, and we're getting phenomenal pictures back and lots of data from our experiments. So it's very exciting. We've already made some neat discoveries, in particular that we landed on an ancient stream bed.
This was sort of planned, but you didn't exactly know until you got there how great a location it was going to be for this kind of exploration.
That's really true. We had a lot of information from the orbiting satellites, and we saw what we thought would be evidence for water and possibly lakes and streams, and so we've already found some of this evidence now. And this means that we will be able to use our instruments to investigate in detail what those environments were like, and whether there's any evidence of past life, for example.
When we talk about finding life on Mars, we're not necessarily talking about finding evidence that there were other humans walking around on Mars. Obviously, we're talking about microbial life and different forms.
Everybody can look at the pictures as they come down, so if you see a fossil, you can let us know. But the topic of life on Mars, of course, has been captured people's imagination for a very long time. And with a lot of research over the last decade or so, it's become clear that we think the environments existed on Mars where life could have formed. We don't know where life originated. Life on the Earth could actually have originated on Mars and been transported to Earth by meteorites. And likewise, if we find life on Mars, there is actually a chance that that life originated on the Earth and was transported to Mars early in the history of the solar system by way of meteorites.
Wow.
And the kind of life that we're hoping we might find would, at best, likely be microbial life. And this is the sort of life that we find in ponds and the oceans, and in fact living in our own bodies. But so these microscopic organisms, we now know from many studies of similar environments on the Earth, can exist in environments we think are present on Mars. So we're looking for those environments. And finally, with this, with the Mars Science Lab, with Curiosity, we have the laboratories to actually study the chemistry, isotopes, and characteristics of this kind of material.
Tell us about your role and the role of your team. Any discoveries with the ChemCam laser?
Yes, well, the ChemCam instrument is about chemistry, and also it has a camera. And it's much like the high school flame experiment that many people did, where you see the different colors
right.
when you heat things up. Ours is a lot more sophisticated. We're making a spark using a laser and then using spectrometers to look at the emission lines that are coming back from that. That tells us about the chemistry of the rocks and the soils. We also have the camera, so we know what we're taking, what we're actually analyzing. Because we can analyze stuff out to about 20, 30 feet away from us, we can look for particular layers in the rock that may be very promising to study further with the fancy instruments that are inside the rover, where we have to actually drill or scoop and put material in. ChemCam is sort of a super eyes for the rover to try to find the best materials to study at with greater detail.
And you've already found some things through the camera part of that, as far as the pebbles, yes. the discovery that there was flowing water?
Yes, and that was very exciting. Again, we picked the site hoping that that's what we would find. And within a day or two, we started seeing evidence for ancient stream bed material. People were looking at the rocks because we wanted to analyze those. And I looked to the side, and here's all these pebbles. So we were, additional new evidence since the press release came out. And these pictures anybody can go and look at.
Really?
They're all online at mars.jpl.nasa.gov. And that's one of the exciting things, that people can see the images that come back, and they're posted within a day. So you can watch yourself and get excited about what you see in the pictures, just like the scientists.
You have students who are now engaged and excited about it.
Yes.
You'd like to continue that process.
Well, there's a lot of important aspects. I think the involving the students, and both the students who get to actually work on the mission, who are very few but lucky, and and all of the millions of students across the United States in particular, and who we hope will get excited about doing math, science, engineering. That's really one of the principal benefits of the mission. We have to find ways to get students excited about going into these difficult fields.
And that's one of the big benefits, what space exploration can do for mankind. Just
it really
one
is.
of many.
And for the United States in particular, because we have huge competition from lots of other countries. And, India, China, Europe. And for us to maintain our technological edge, we have to convince students to go into these hard fields.
And as far as the technology to do this type of exploration, we're talking about instruments that have been finely perfected and over the years and made much smaller, and then even the applications that will work here on Earth, as you said, to do some exploration.
Right. I think that's a really important point, that the technology seems very esoteric, but actually the kind of analytical instruments that are being built, some of them have already been commercialized and are available. Instruments that used to take up a whole room, you can now fit in a little suitcase, and you can go and buy one and analyze the mineralogy of everything from rocks and drugs and very many different things. Our own instrument, ChemCam, has never been used like this before. So this is really a new technology that has potential application as well.
What do you think the most exciting element of this story right now is?
I think it's really about exploration. It's about taking us away from worrying about the problems that we have on the Earth. We are, as the human race, are exploring another planet. And this is for everybody. We're all in it together, looking out to the stars and the planets and learning about that as a legacy for the whole human race.
Will we find life?
Well, that's the $64,000 question, of course. All the research in the last decade or so has really pointed out that it's extremely unlikely that life exists on the surface of Mars. We think that there are certainly environments, and then we've already found one that indicates that in ancient Mars, billions of years ago, there were environments where life could have existed. And we're looking for possibly for evidence of what those environments were like, and also whether there was in fact any life present at that time. There's a possibility that life is still present on Mars, but it would almost certainly be deep underground and not very accessible to us. We do have a drill. We can get a little bit down underneath the surface and get samples. And so we're looking for that evidence, and the sophistication of the laboratories is just huge. I think there are organic materials delivered by meteorites, for example, And so we're going to learn a huge amount about the properties of the material, the evolution of Mars, how it went from being a planet that supported lakes and rivers and maybe even oceans to the dry planet that we see now.
How long is this experiment expected to last?
The MER rovers, there were two of them, Spirit and Opportunity, were only expected to last 90 days or so because they had solar panels. So the idea with Curiosity was to use nuclear power. And so we have a plutonium heat source. This power source eliminates a lot of the problems that they've had with the other rovers. And we'll be able to just continually work for as long as we have power and as long as the experiments hold up. It's a very difficult environment. It's 20 degrees during the day, so you could stand out there with a light jacket, but at night it's 100 degrees below zero. Very difficult to build equipment that will last for a really long time.
Sure.
Our prime mission is 2 Earth years or 1 Mars year, but we hope it lasts a lot longer.
Well, you've been right there firsthand all the way. Do you have any cool little stories to the launch or the landing? I mean,
Sure. There's the landing was a lot of fun. We have a big science team of about 400 people. It's all the engineers who built the systems and who are running the entry system.
Touchdown confirmed. We're safe on Mars.
The ones who got to be the stars of the show on the landing day. I think I can't emphasize, how amazing the group of people who are working on this project. They're all brilliant, fascinating people, and so it's a human endeavor to do this.
Let's talk a little bit about New Mexico's connection.
Very good. Okay, well, New Mexico has a lot of connections to planetary science and Mars. Larry Crumpler's involved with running the Opportunity rover, which is on the other side of the planet, investigating a big impact crater there. A lot of just amazing stuff, and all that data is coming down. Everybody can look at it and enjoy the pictures, and all of the scientific data is available for scientists in the United States and around the world to look at. So it's really is a mission for the entire planet. In terms of Mars, the instrument that we're running right now was built, half of it was built up at Los Alamos by Roger Wiens and his team. He's the leader of our big group. And the other half was built in France. Then we have partners, the people who are the scientists who are part of the original group that planned it, including myself here, my students, my colleague Wolf Elston. He's even been helping with some of the mapping effort, even though he retired 20 years ago. So we're covering huge generations here, from high school students through our retired colleagues who are all contributing to the mission.
Really kind of cool, all kinds of connections there for New Mexico. Can you explain a little bit more about how the rover is built, the makeup of the rover?
The rover, MSL Curiosity, is the size of a small car, and the mast that sticks up where our instrument is located and most of the cameras is about 7 feet. So we have the viewpoint of an NBA basketball player
Nice.
when you're looking out over the landscape. So we have this car-sized rover. It's nuclear powered with a plutonium heat source that generates about 120 watts of power on a continuous basis. That recharges the batteries. And then we have a big arm. It's this huge arm that can reach out, and it has a giant pod of instruments at the end of the arm. And that can do chemical analysis. It can also scoop up samples. And one of the things that's very exciting is it has a drill. And we can drill into rocks and then take those samples and deliver them into the laboratories that are inside the rover. The ability to either scoop up material or drill it and put it into the sophisticated laboratories inside the rover is a totally new capability. And then with our instrument up on the top of the mast, along with the cameras, we can use that to explore and look for those exciting materials that we think will tell us more about the early history.
Thank you, Dr. Newsom, for joining us. Really interesting stuff.
Oh, great. Glad to be here.
And joining me is Professor Lucy Tapahanso. Now, you are a creative Dene poet. Tell me your name in Navajo.
She'e Lucy Tapahanso Hinishke. Do Twitter Glen Schle, do Twitter eating Bashichin, there's cheatney that should trade, dog and cheatney that should nalle, not only nes the Igasi Nasha, without the nest Schle. So I said a lot more than my name. So my name in Navajo is Tkapa Hatsa, which means edge of a big water. I told you my clans, and I'm from Shiprock, which is not Anines. Like those are my relatives and the place that I come from, which is really important and kind of lets people know your standing or your identification as a Navajo person.
It gives a little bit of history in doing so, and like you said, a background. When did you first discover that you were a poet? Did you start writing as a child?
I was writing and keeping journals when I was in junior high, and I really enjoyed my English classes. But I actually didn't start writing poetry per se until I was in college. And I took a creative writing workshop with Leslie Silko, who was just a wonderful teacher. And she just encouraged me, and I was so surprised that what's really in Navajo conversation and Navajo daily life was considered to be to have like a strong poetic foundation.
You talked about the person who mentored you when you first got into the university. Were there others?
Leslie Marmon Silko was probably my main influence, but there were many others, many wonderful poets that I read, and going to poetry readings and meeting other people who were writing at the time, Joy Harjo, Simon Ortiz, people that are my contemporaries. But it was really a matter of discovering for myself as well, and through my studies, all types of poetry. So I was so excited when I discovered like the sonnet and the villanelle, Shakespeare. It was just amazing to me because I realized I already had that.
It's got to feel really gratifying to you to sort of be that link to the generations that will come after you with your poetry.
My writing is mostly concerned with daily life and honoring the way that we live, and not just Navajo people, but American life in general. We were talking about the fall here in New Mexico, the scent of green chili, the crisp air in the morning, and the way the evenings are scented with wood smoke. And it's only in New Mexico. Those are the kinds of memories and the kinds of moments that I really like to capture, because when people read that, it just brings them home if they're away. And if we're here, it just connects us in a way that nothing else can.
Absolutely. Often in your poetry, the feminine is a source of power and balance. Does that come from your Diné heritage?
It does. We're a matrilineal people, which means as when I introduce myself, I said Twitik, and that's my mother's clan. But when I say her clan is Twitik, when I say Nishle, that means I am. So in a sense, I say I am my mother when we introduce ourselves, and all our primary relationships are through our mother.
You have a unique ability to think and write in Diné, but then there's also, for us, when you explained how you said, I am my mother, the protocol or the translation of it is really an art in and of itself.
Sometimes I hear a Navajo word and I think, let me see how many parts, like where does that word come from? How many meanings are in it? I have a poem in my book called Naneskade, and it's about tortillas, making tortillas. But in the word Naneskade, na has roots in like to go forward. Na is also the ground. It's also a word that is the root word for corn, which is really essential in the Southwest, na-dan. So na-nes, then na-nes is to have something flat, kade, and kad is that action of making the bread.
Wow.
And then de means this is for you, di na ishla, I made this for you. So, you know, it really is delightful when I think about the words and then think about how they break down in Navajo, but then also to think about what it means in English.
Sure.
And it's truly poetic. You know, it's like one word can be a poem by itself because it contains so much. And there's so much, the connotations of family and nurturing and memory and sharing and food.
Where do you continually look to get your inspiration?
You know, my work really focuses on the ordinary and how, and our relationship to our communities and our families and our kin and to place. I'd like to think that the ordinary is thought of as sacred. In Navajo, you know, where the way that you go out in the morning and the direction your house faces, even the way you cook certain foods or the way you clean your house, all those have a ritual aspect to it. Poetry can represent that. And I do think poetry is important to everybody, whether we realize it or not. You know, when people get married, sometimes they read a poem, a baby's born, at funerals, when people fall in love. You know, there's always poetry of some sort in our lives. Absolutely. At pivotal moments.
How do you teach poetry and inspire your students?
When I teach creative writing, which is the writing of poetry, I approach teaching the way that I was taught learning in Navajo, which is to talk about how people were given language in the beginning. In Navajo, they say the sacred begins at the tip of my tongue. So there's very much like a sacredness or a holiness that's associated with creativity, like whatever a person creates and brings into this world is sacred, and it adds to the beauty of the world. It adds to the way that all of us live, and we all benefit when people create something new.
I would love to ask you to read one of your poems, Hanez Ba Wolye. What does that mean before you read it? Tell us about that.
It just makes me happy. Hanez Ba is the name of our youngest grandbaby, and it's actually my mother's Navajo name. Hanet means stories. Nez is tall, and she's going to be a tall baby. We can see
already
that
tell.
right now, yeah. And Ba is the classic Navajo name for a Navajo girl, and it means warrior. Wolye means that's her name.
Great.
So that's what I'll read.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. She brings stories of hope from the war. She brings stories of hope to remind us of our strength. She brings stories of hope to restore our faith. She brings stories so that we will endure, so that we may laugh again. Yesterday, as I was feeding her, she watched with dark, shiny eyes. Ashanet Satsui, I murmured, smoothing her soft, thick hair. Then she stopped drinking milk and smiled. Her eyes became curved slits of joy as drops of milk slid down her chin. Later, when I changed her diaper, her arms and legs were finally freed from being swaddled, and she became a sweet blur of motion and softness. She stretched her limbs and yawned the whole time, smiling. She kept smiling, her mouth wide open and her arms twirling and legs kicking. She wears little pink mittens to prevent her from scratching her face. I said to her, "Gugu, are you in a boxing club?" "You better not be. You're only 2 months old, baby. Wait till you're 18, okay?" She was just smiling and batting her gloves around. Then I nuzzled her and said, "No boxing club, okay? Okay?" Then she laughed, a sweet, even ripple of happiness. Then we were both laughing, looking into each other's faces. Silly boxing club, silly Masane club, silly Gugu. She was touching my face and hair as I kissed and nuzzled her little tummy. At that moment, I rediscovered myself in her radiant laughter. The earlier fatigue, worry, and constant aches that had become my companions fell away. I was made anew again. We are all made anew again by the clear radiance of a baby's laughter. Her name is Hanespa Lorna Halona. Hanespa Lorna Halona Olye.
Do you have a question for our experts? Please email us your viewer questions and comments to askconnect@newmexicopbs.org. Thank you for watching. Production support provided by the University of New Mexico.